grapple hook this time around, but I'm going to show you rather than just let you take my word for it. It is Just Cause 4 though, it is a proper open world crazy game, and Rico's got a friend who would, as and when, will drop in giant crates with certain prizes in them, and this time he has decided to ask for a fighter jet, because of course he has, that's how the real world works. Because if you want to get around the world of Solis, it's up to you. You can run, you can walk, you can fly, you can swim, you can do whatever you want. In this case though, we're tired of walking as Rico, and we're going to take to the skies using that makeshift runway, even though in that little village you really shouldn't be able to launch a plane, but you can. As the camera pans around as well, obviously it's an open world, it's a video game. If you can see it, you can get there. There's no restrictions, no holding you back. It's your world, you get to play in it, and you get to go wherever you see fit. I mentioned the size of the world, but I also hinted or touched upon how packed and how dense this world was. And now I want to draw your attention to these icons in the top left-hand corner, the triangles and the diamonds. The reason they keep coming and going is because they're there to let you know about the objectives and missions that are currently in the area. So the more Rico moves forward, he's leaving some of those objectives behind him, which he can turn around to and revisit. But as he goes forward, new ones are popping up, and that is going to happen constantly throughout the game. You're always going to have something to do, you're always going to have multiple options, you're never going to be bored. Or if you're someone who would rather just muck around and do silly stuff, you can do that in Just Cause 4 as well, like Rico's going to do here. He's just going to bomb the hell up that facility, because why not? We can. There's no consequences in video games. On top of all that as well, Just Cause 4 features the biggest and most in-depth story in the franchise's history, which means if you're into narrative-driven games, you can do that too. You see this sandstorm on the left here, this kind of cloud of dust? That is the second extreme weather effect I'm going to show you today. Now, we're not going to fly into it in this demo, but you absolutely can when you play it. And if you do that, it's going to restrict your visibility, it's going to change combat, it's going to alter the way the game plays, but you can also use it to your advantage. If you're being chased, if you're doing a mission and somebody's on your tail, you can fly into that sandstorm and maybe you create a problem for your enemy, maybe you create a problem for them, maybe because of that, that's how you turn the tides on them, or you can completely ignore it. All weather effects in Just Cause 4 are procedurally generated. They come and go much like real weather, so you have to deal with them as and when they choose to show up. Saw Rico do a barrel roll there. He can do a loop-the-loop, he can go left, right, up, down, centre, you know all that stuff. The reason I like to point that out is because even though the plane or the flying is just a small part of Just Cause 4, that plane will do and control exactly how you expect a plane to perform and control. It's not like you get less just because there's more in the world. Everything lives up to expectations, and there's just a whole load of other stuff you can also throw yourself into. You also don't have to worry about when you get bored of the plane. You can jump out of the plane and send it careering into the floor, and it just explodes. That's done. It's not your responsibility anymore. And now we find ourselves in environment / biome number 2, which is the desert. Now you'll see how different this is to the grasslands we were in a few minutes ago. And the cool thing about the desert is, it's open, right? It's a desert, there's loads of landmass. So you can jump in this buggy, and you can drive around to your heart's content. There's no obstacles, there's no hurdles. You can do, essentially, whatever you want. And it's like an off-road driving game, an off-road racing game. But if you drive this buggy to the rainforest, which is another biome, and you can absolutely do that, you can't have that freedom anymore, because there's going to be trees and other such foliage getting in the way. So you've got to be smart, you've got to treat that differently. And essentially every time you enter a new environment, it's like you're opening a new game. Obviously exploration is still key in Just Cause 4, so you're going to come across these villages, and you'll have challenges such as that. It was known as a speed stunt. I'm not going to patronise you and explain what a speed stunt is. I think you can figure it out, but there is loads of those throughout Solis that you can engage with. Now we're going to talk about the grappling hook. Grappling hook returns from Just Cause 3, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. It grapples things, right? You know that. So we can grapple this bale of hay to the well, or we can grapple the 2 bits of hay together, whatever you want. But now, a new attachment with the grapple hook is the airlifter, or the slang word, balloon. And as you can see, it lifts things up in the air. We also have boosters returning from Just Cause 3, but they've been upgraded too. Now with these airlifters, they will pretty much attach to anything in the world. So you can attach it to barrels, or you can attach it to that poor lady. As I always say at this juncture, that lady probably died. She had a long fall. We don't need to worry about it because we've got a demo to show off. And this is where the creativity and the innovation, I think, is shown off quite well at Just Cause 4. Here we have a food cart. It's a food cart that you could miss at any point in the game. At no point are you going to be looking for a food cart. But if you do, you can attach some airlifters to it. You can shoot those canisters beneath. And from nowhere you've got a sky surfboard. Imagine you're doing some kind of mission and you know that if you have a height advantage, it's going to allow you to do it. You can go and create that, or you can just ignore it and try to do it a different way. These kind of options are rife throughout the game as well, which we're going to prove here too. We're going to go into our loadout, we're going to go into our modifiers. There is over 4 million combinations in Just Cause 4, which probably means you're not going to have the same experience as one of your friends. What we've done here is we've told those airlifters to follow Rico wherever he goes, to make sure they're always in Rico's sphere of influence so he can control them. We're then going to attach these balloons to some red barrels, and we all know what red barrels do in video games. They explode. But as now we've taken to the skies and we know that those balloons are going to follow us, we've now created air grenades. And what's more, you can use those air grenades in a story mission, in an objective, or you can just be like our friend Rico here and destroy a perfectly innocent village because you don't have any morals. It's up to you. It's your game. You play it how you want. There's more examples of this. This is the idea of the demo. So we get to this thing, you see this radar here on the left. It's just a white radar. It's fine. It's doing its radar type thing. But if you look at it and you've got more of a creative mind, it looks a bit like a catapult. Well, we've got a grappling hook, so we can pull the top of that down. We can then grapple hook the car to that bit, and then we can go around, we can do a bit of carpentry, a bit of electric work, get those panels off, create a pulley system thanks to the grapple hook, and within a matter of seconds, we have created a catapult. And once again we choose to just hurl somebody's car needlessly across the map, even though when they leave work that day they're going to just have a bad day all round because they haven't got a car anymore. But a lot of people, they like to go bigger. I understand that. I'm a video game player. I know what people like to enjoy in these kind of games. So we're going to call in Rico's plane friend again. We're going to ask to have another crate dispatched, and in this crate we've got something a little bit different. There he is. There's our guy. He's going to drop in our new vehicle. Because now I want to show you what's possible with a tank. Now I'll admit it's a very strangely painted tank. I don't know why we have eyes and teeth on the back, but you know, it's fun. We're going to go back into our modifier menu just to show you what you can do with this. We're going to set our airlifters, our balloons, to a specific altitude. So we're going to tell how high we want them to fly, and we're going to tell our boost to push downwards in order to create an upwards momentum. Now, airlifters in Just Cause 4 works on physics, real life physics. So given that we're trying to lift a tank up into the air, we're going to need more balloons because it weighs a lot. And the way that's possible is all thanks to the Apex engine, the brand new engine that powers Just Cause 4. That's where all these ideas and all these possibilities start and finish. So once we've figured out how many balloons we need, and then we trial and error when you play it on December the 4th, we can grapple hook our way to the hatch of the tank, we can get in, we can trigger all of that, and then from nowhere, we have an air tank. Now I know there's loads of air tanks at EGX, or not air tanks, sorry, there's loads of tanks at EGX, but none of them, this is my point, are air tanks. And if anybody wants to debate that an air tank isn't better than a normal tank, I will take you up on that argument. And once again, you can either choose to just create wanton destruction and blow up people's houses, or you can take this into a mission. Any mission in the game, if you have the tools at your disposal, you can try and complete using an air tank. And I gotta tell you, I think it's gonna make the mission a lot easier than if you don't have an air tank. But we understand it's 2018, we understand that people's attention spans are shorter every year. So when you're done with that air tank, you just pop the hatch and you fly away. You don't have to worry about what happens to that now. That's now evidence for UFO conspiracies for a few weeks. Government can deal with that. We've got a demo, so we continue moving on. Fast forward to now so I can show you a new environment, some new weapons, as well as some other stuff in Just Cause 4. The environment we're going into now is the more rainforesty, grasslands kind of environment. You can see it's greener, there's more trees. Hopefully you get a different feel compared to the desert environment that we saw a second ago. And it's here that I want to introduce you to a new weapon in the game known as the wind gun. Now I'm sure you can figure out what a wind gun does, but I'll have an example for you here. It blows wind. So if you want to knock these cardboard crates off, you can. There they go. They're screwed. But if you want to be more sadistic, you could ruin these two people's lives as well. They're gone. They're not coming back. Rico has no idea how long that drop is. He just knocked them off. Every weapon, new weapon I should say, in Just Cause 4 also has a secondary fire though. And with the wind gun, if you go for that secondary fire, you've got the wind burst, and then you can do things like this. Absolutely knock that off his perch. And the cool thing is you can use that momentum to grapple hook onto it and take back to the skies. And the reason I think that's an interesting point to make is because a lot of people in Just Cause, they just want to fly around. They literally just want to fly around as Rico, using the wingsuit and using the parachute. And the people at Avalanche know that. So what we've done now is we've introduced these like winds coming from the floor, or updrafts, if you will. And as I've already said, everything works on physics in Just Cause 4. So as we have a parachute, and now we have some wind that is coming up from the floor, obviously when that parachute goes over that wind, it's going to move that parachute up. However, we also have a wind gun, and we know if we fire that wind gun, that's going to create a forward momentum from the gun, which is going to propel us backwards. So all of a sudden you're able to do like a Michael Jackson style moonwalk with your parachute and move backwards. And in case you don't know, and I'm sure you do, that's not what parachutes are meant to do. The one rule of a parachute, or the one use of a parachute, is to protect you when you jump out of a plane. But again, the idea is for you to have all of these tools, for you to experiment with these tools, even if it is something as small as reversing with a parachute. Forward the demo on a little bit more so I can show you the third extreme weather event in the game. We'll get into this one a lot more than the other two. This is known as the lightning storm. You can see how the atmosphere has changed, the more ambient moods. Rain is slowly sprinkling on the screen. And the one thing you need to know about lightning in Just Cause 4 is it will attack the highest point on the map whenever it strikes. And Rico, within that scenario, counts as one of those points. So here what we need to do is we need to deploy some lightning rods in order to attract the lightning away from us. Because right now, for a split second there, Rico was the highest point on the map. Therefore, if there is a lightning strike, he's at risk of being hit. And that doesn't only just apply to Rico, that applies to his enemies and the AI as well, which I'll show you in a couple of minutes. But straight away that changes the gameplay, because you've got to decide how willing are you to risk Rico's life by flying around in case he gets struck. Luckily here we've deployed a lightning rod, and that will attract the lightning. So Rico in that scenario knew, well, I can go a bit higher, because if something does happen, which it did, which was very handy, the lightning can attack that instead. Always a good time to mention this as well, given that lightning is very destructive. Chaos returns in Just Cause 4. If you don't know what chaos is, it's nice and simple. The more chaos you create, the more destruction you cause. The exploits of one Rico are going to spread throughout the world of Solis. These little towns are going to hear about what this guy is doing. They're going to join his cause, and Rico's cause is nice and simple: to bring revolution to the world of Solis and overthrow the evil dictators. And that's why you want to blow stuff up. That's why you want to cause carnage, so people know what you're doing and they come and join your team. Hence why we just blew up those canisters. People are going to hear about that from miles to come, and they'll be like, you know what, I want to go and join Rico. I want to help him launch his revolution around the world. So you may have noticed for the last few minutes, Rico has been running around causing millions of pounds worth of damage to the facility that is not his. So obviously eventually the enemies, the AI, his opponents, are going to come and try and take him out. And this is where the extreme weather effects gets interesting. You have a choice now. If you know you have somebody on your tail and they're trying to take you down, you can either stay low, try and ignore these weather effects altogether, or you can kind of, you know, trick your opponent, trick your enemy into following you. So you can go up to be the highest point of the map, you can get whoever's following you to do that too, and then you nosedive down, and hopefully they won't notice, and the lightning will strike them instead. And you may have seen it on one of the promotional videos we were running before this, but one of the devs actually says if you do that and you manage to pull that off successfully, only then are you really playing Just Cause 4. Because that's when you're sort of using all these new attributes and all these new gameplay ideas to your advantage. Like here, for example, Rico knows he can't go too high. The person chasing him knows that too, so he's going to stay low. He's going to stay low because he's well aware that he could get struck by lightning. It is Just Cause 4, however. The name of the game is Just Cause 4, but the figurative name of the game is it's your choice. You could do whatever you want, so you can keep things basic. If a helicopter just happens to pop up over the horizon, and a couple of dudes pop out of there thinking they've got the jump on Rico, you can attach a couple of boosters to it, you can attach a couple of grenades, off it goes in the air, it explodes, a dead body comes flying past Rico's face, but he's used to that, it's fine. It's up to you. Again, Just Cause 4 will give you the tools. You then try and figure out what can I get away with and what can't I get away with. But this part of the demo always proves, to me anyway, you can get away with an awful lot. Because if you just apply the boosters and the air lifters to this canister, shoot the end because you know it's flammable, essentially what you've created there is a death rocket. And if you're struggling on a mission, or you've got to take out a bunch of dudes all at once, I guarantee that when that death rocket crashes the other side, you're going to take out a lot of dudes. And again, you may never know you can create a death rocket in Just Cause 4 if you don't experiment and you don't allow your imagination to get the better of you. Never forget though that Rico, while he may act like a superhero and is quote unquote a force of nature, he is still a man, he is still human, he is still mortal. If you do blow up too much stuff and you get too close, you will die. So the challenge is still there. You've still got to find that balance between going crazy and not getting injured. But this is Just Cause 4. It does come out on December the 4th, 2018 for the PC, Xbox One and PlayStation 4. I've been Simon Miller. Thank you very much for joining. And remember, the world of Solis, the biggest and most packed world yet. If you'd like to form a dome around the stage, I do have some hats.